The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending ThomasNet's Results-Powered Marketing, Content Marketing for Industrial Companies webinar. Hope you guys are ready to go. Let's go over a few housekeeping things. Okay, so if you are not seeing the screen, click the Citrix logo in your toolbar to launch the window. It's in that lower toolbar sometimes where you get in but you can't see the screen. Our presentation will take about 45 minutes. Everyone on the webinar today is in listen-only mode. However, we do really encourage questions. So if you do have any questions, type them in the question box on the lower right of the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen. If they come up during the session, I will try to answer them during the session. If not, I'll grab them all at the end. So let's get started. My name is Kathy Hokinson. I'm Digital Solutions Executive for ThomasNet's RPM. I have about 15 years experience in the search and social marketing arena, starting my career with ThomasNet as a sales contractor for 12 years, and then working with a search and social marketing firm, also focusing in manufacturing, speaking regarding social media and search engine optimization and internet marketing for business to business across the country, and then rejoining ThomasNet as part of their solutions sales team. So excited to talk to you guys today. So what are we going to go over today? So we're going to talk about how to make content work for you. There's a lot of conversation about what content really is, and we're going to talk about what content is that really is going to work for you to help grow your business. We're going to talk about how to understand today's industrial buyers and how to build the content around understanding those industrial buyers. We're going to talk about some of the key components of what an industrial content marketing strategy looks like. What are the different pieces of the puzzle that put it all together for you? What are some of the tools of the content marketing trade? So how do you get this all done? Where do you even begin this conversation? And then we'll kind of review some of the key takeaways and answer any of your questions. So let's talk about what content marketing even means. So content marketing is a technique of creating and distributing relevant and valuable or remarkable content that attract your potential prospect, the target audience that you want to speak to. So we want to attract, we want to acquire, we want to engage, and we want to nurture them, nurture that specific person that you need to do business with. And obviously we're attracting them with the objective of driving profitable customer action, right? So how do we get the right guy in to our business, to our website? And it's through that content we create that's of value to that target audience. So when you think about content marketing, you think about traditionally how we used to market, right? Push marketing or paid or renting space around people that we wanted to talk to. I think about how when I used to work trade shows, right? I'd stand in the aisle of the trade show sort of in the way of people as they walked by. They didn't intend to talk to me, but I was sure going to make sure they couldn't get by without me at least trying to talk to them. So I was pushing my message on them, right? I was sort of renting their time. But if you think about the power of content marketing, what we're creating is a much more powerful dynamic. So now what we're doing is by creating remarkable content or engaging content that speaks directly to that target decision maker we want to talk to, we're now pulling them towards us, and they're voluntarily coming our way. So we're earning their attention, right? They want to be there. And the power of content marketing is that you're engaging them at the place that they are with content of value. So content marketing foundationally is brilliant, right? It makes so much sense. The other thing about content marketing that the internet has made so powerful is if you think traditionally, our marketing was limited to space, right? Literally linear inches. You could take out a full-page ad in a magazine, a full-page ad in ThomasNet's directory, whatever you wanted to, or actually Thomas Registered Directory, not ThomasNet, but it used to be we had space, and we were limited to the message we could convey based on the page we were looking at. But now with the internet, our space is unlimited, and we can create all kinds of great, powerful content. So it's really opened up our ability to earn the conversation, to pull them towards us with information that's relevant to them. So the first thing that you need to do foundationally in order to create a really effective content marketing strategy is you have to understand today's industrial buyers and how they buy. 60% of the sales process occurs before they even talk to the company or a salesperson for a company. So 60% of the process that your prospects go through occurs without you participating in it whatsoever. And so you really need to understand what they're doing and where they're looking. So you really have to understand what today's industrial buyers are going through and what they need to know. So we actually had the very good fortune of speaking with the Director of Global Procurement and actually two people from his procurement team for a Fortune 50 company. And it was one of those companies that you see on the screen there. And it was really interesting to hear their perspective about procurement and what they look for and how they source new vendors. So let me share with you that process that we talked to about them. So a couple things that really struck me was, first of all, their discovery process. What you see on the screen here is the 5 key portals that they use to source new information or source new vendors, right? Now what's interesting here is that, first of all, their internal vendor database is not here. They said it was difficult to source, that they typically used it strictly for diversity sourcing, but that these databases help them to really source vendors, compare vendors, and find the data that they needed. Additionally, what they talked about, that Google was not their primary platform, which I also thought was very interesting. So let's talk about this buyer process, right? So one of the things that they talked about is they go through this buyer's journey, right, or this buying process. They go through an educate, search, evaluate, shortlist, and RFI. So educate, search, and evaluate is probably that 60% of the process, sales process that occurs without your participation, without you even knowing that it occurs. So how do we engage them through these different phases? Well, through the educate process, right, you can create really remarkable content that associates your company as a thought leader in your industry. You can do that through press releases, news, high-value educational content, and brand advertising. When you do this, you create awareness, and it also associates your company and your brand as a market leader. So in that educate process, if you have really powerful content, you start to stand above your competition as a thought leader. When they're in that educate phase and they're utilizing your content to educate themselves about the issue or the product that they're researching, then that also reminds them to look for you when they're in the search phase of the buy process, right? So when we capture them very early, building our presence as a thought leader through our really valuable content, then as they move into search, you sort of stand out in the forefront of their mind. Then when they move into evaluate, you're now sort of the market leader, right? You're the thought leader as they move through this process of determining what it is they need and how they're going to answer their problem. And now you're sort of that position you're in the position as a market leader, as a thought leader. And so your position above your competitors is just a step above because you help them through that educate, search, and evaluate phase. And it's all of these 3 steps that then move you into the shortlist, and most importantly about RFI, and helping them to feel confident about partnering with you because your brand and your company was associated as they moved themselves through the awareness of need and educating themselves about the need, searching for the solutions to their need, and then evaluating the solutions and the vendors to answer the need. So here's what the buyers want to know from you. And what you should do is take this list and you should go through your website. Does your website answer these, provide this specific content? And quite frankly, as I said, where 60% of the sales process occurs without your participation in it, this is part of that conversation. And if you don't provide what they want to know, they're just not going to include you in the process. So what they want to know is your company profile. Who are you? How did you come to be? How big are you? Where are you located? What's your history? Just kind of all about who you are as a company. Your geographic footprint. Where do you serve? And I will tell you, very few websites say specifically where they serve. So you need to tell them that, yes, we source nationally, or no, we only work in the Northeast. Tell them where you work. They want to know. And if they don't know, then they're not going to ask, right? So they're not going to spend the time to figure it out. They want to know what industries you're currently working with. Both industry served and current customers was very interesting. So if you're working in their industry already, then that's a benefit to you, right? So they're comfortable working with you. But even more importantly is if you're working with one of their competitors, this was also of high value to these procurement team, because if you're working with one of their competitors, then you get them. You get their industry, you understand, so they're more comfortable working with you when you're working with one of their competitors. What's your annual sales? They need to know if you can handle what they're considering placing with a new vendor. And I know many companies push back on the annual sales conversation, but I will tell you that it is of high value to this procurement team that they know that. And if they don't know, they're going to assume you're not big enough and they're just going to disclude you from the process, disqualify you from the process. Be very specific about your services and your products available. Key manufacturing equipment list. If this is relevant to what you do, make sure you detail this. Product samples, images of work that you have done or products that you sell. What are the capacities of the machines that you have internally? Quality practices and performance metrics were another huge point of conversation. Spent several minutes around this conversation. They want detailed information on exactly what your quality practices are, and they want to know what your performance metrics are against those quality practices. Proven data on how you support what you say you're going to do. Cost collaboration. Now, what they meant by cost collaboration was not just, can you please drop your price, we want it cheaper, but partnering with them on how to buy this product or maybe a better way to purchase this product that might reduce costs for them. Not that you just reduce your costs, but how can you partner together to reduce their costs while you still make a profit in doing your job? So really helping them to buy this product better. Maybe a different material, maybe a different manufacturing method. Whatever your ideas were about that, whatever it is they're coming to you about, if there's a way to do it better and less expensive, they want your feedback on that. Success measurements against how you work with your existing clients, on-time deliveries, quality, the whole 9 yards. Client benefits. So if all things are equal between you and your competitors, what is the value of doing business with you? What do you bring to the table above and beyond the products and the capabilities that makes it of value to do business with you? What's in it for them to make that move from an existing vendor to you? What are those intangible, those nuances, those things that you bring to the table beyond just that product or service that makes them want to work with you? Management contacts. And I will tell you, I do many internet marketing assessments. Nobody wants to put the decision makers' names on the websites or the email addresses because they don't want spam. They don't want all the silly salespeople calling them. But I will tell you, in today's market, you cannot advertise in a defensive position. If you want to be successful, you need to put what they want to know there. Yes, you're going to have to handle some salespeople's calls, some spam, and all that kind of stuff. But you're better off managing that, the opportunity of gaining larger clients. And then diversity classification. If you're veteran-owned, women-owned, minority-owned, make sure that you clearly indicate that on your website as well. So what you need to know is when you take a look at this list and look at your existing website, are you giving your potential clients, your potential prospects, the information that they need in order to do business with you? So let's take a look at one of our clients' websites. So this is Corrugated Metals. So if we look at their website from the perspective of company profile, yep, we have that About Us tab right here detailing all their information. Services available, yep, clearly defined right there in the left nav, services available, products available, industry served, current customers and project samples right here, examples of the work that we do and case studies of how they come together. So getting onto the short list. So you've made it through the educate, search, and evaluate phase. How do you get onto that short list? Well, here are the key things that they talked about. One, and we mentioned this in that list of what they want to know. You need to highlight your performance. You have to have illustrated solid, measurable performance in quality, cost, service, and delivery. Remember, this is stuff they clearly defined that they need to know in order to move through the educate, search, and evaluate phase, and they absolutely need to know it to move you onto the short list. Focus on differentiation. Again, what's the value of doing business with your company over your competitors if all things being equal? Machine capacity, size, delivery, the whole 9 yards. If everything's equal between you and your competitors, what makes you stand above the field? What's the value of doing business with you? And examples of how you were solution driven, right? I talked about cost collaboration. They want to know how you're going to partner with them to help them do their job better and to meet their customers' needs as well. And if you think about it, for many of these companies to move from one vendor to another, as an internal procurement person, that can put them at risk, right? If they make a bad move, that puts their job in jeopardy. And so you need to show them why it's worth them making that change, moving all that paperwork, changing all the everything, and the risk that it puts them at by making this switch. So these are really key pieces of information that you need to illustrate that helps move you further through the process with these larger companies. So everybody's looking for exactly what you do. And here you are, right? Here's you and your competitors, and there's you. And now your potential prospects are going through this process, and they want to move you. We want you to move to your prospect shortlist. You have to make sure that you're in the right place, right time, telling them what they need to know to get onto that shortlist. Take a hard look at your website. Are you giving them the information they need in order to go through this process with you and move your company to that shortlist and potential RFI? So we've kind of positioned the marketplace, right? How the buyers go through the buying process, what the information is they want to know. But still, that's a pretty broad concept for creating marketing content. So we need to get even more specific. And foundationally, when you create content for your website, it has to be very specific and targeted to the people that you want to talk to. And the way we get that started is by creating what we call personas. And personas are the aspect of someone's character that is presented to or perceived by others. So the personas are characteristics of the people that you want to talk to in their business environment, okay? We really get hung up on what we do and the specifics of our machines and how quick we deliver, and yet we forget who we're talking to. So when you understand exactly who you're talking to and what's important to them, then you can start building the right content that will attract those decision makers to your website. So let's look at a couple different personas. So one targeted persona might be a design engineer. So let's first talk about what's a focus of a design engineer, right? He's the form and function of components or machines, right? He's designing the form and function of the different things that's done. Now his function is, he's probably a degreed engineer or a manufacturing professional. He's somebody who's got to do problem solving, right? So either he's creating a new component for a new product, or they're having issues and things need to be redesigned. Clearly he's very adept at reading and creating CAD drawings and part drawings. He's expected design to manufacture, and designs can use existing products or newly designed components. So how does he buy? Well, he has a lot of input in the buying process, but he's not the guy. He's not the decision maker. However, we all know that many times if we can get spec'd on that drawing, chances are we're moving right through procurement. He needs to know as much as possible about the product or service, and so he's going to do a lot of researching on that. He typically uses a desktop computer, right? He's usually pretty stationary. His background and personality is he's got more limited personal skills, really doesn't want to speak to a lot of people to gather the information needed, and he likes detailed technical information. So if he doesn't want to talk to anybody and he needs a lot of detailed technical information, he's going to the web, right, to source his information and to find the answers he needs in order to do his job better. So another persona might be a procurement manager. So their focus is cost, delivery, and reliability, right? What's it going to cost them? How quickly can you get it? And how reliable are you? Can I count on you to do what you say you're going to do? So his job function is he's going to get the bill of materials from the design engineers, right? We just talked about the fact that on design engineers, it's usually a benefit when we get spec'd into those drawings. So he's going to get that bill of materials from the design engineers, listing exactly what is required for the product. He's going to research and contact suppliers, so he's going to be in that search and evaluate phase, right? He's going to keep all the technical information on file. He's going to have certs, MSDS, deck information, everything that he needs. His buying behavior is he's the guy. He's the one. He's the final decision maker. He's going to negotiate with you on price and delivery, and he's also pretty stationary. He's going to be working at a desktop computer. Background and personality. He's not an engineer, but typically he can get through those prints. He's pretty knowledgeable about manufacturing and products, and he's a tougher guy to work with, right? They're used to negotiating and getting their price and their deliveries that they need. So when we understand, right, those personas, the guys that we want to talk to, those decision makers that we need to work with, and we understand these conversations about them, then foundationally we understand how to start the content creation conversation. So let's talk about content marketing and how you can map it to your business goals. So now we understand the buying process, right? We understand how our potential prospects and clients are going to move through that process. We understand who we want to talk to and what we need to do to create content around the guys that we want to talk to. So let's talk about how we start building the strategy around our business goals. So maybe your company has charged you with a business growth goal of 10%, right? Prior to content marketing, you would traditionally look at doing a lot of different things. So you would look at some content, but it would just be about adding more stuff to your website. You might do some more trade magazines, some press releases about you, newsletters, brochures, line cards. And notice that all of this content is about you, right? And it's all about your products or services and you. Traffic, you probably might hire an SEO guy. You might do a Google AdWords, a pay-per-click campaign, and you're probably doing some social media, maybe tweeting all your newsletters and line cards out. For engagement, to get people to engage with you, you're probably doing some cold calling, you're doing some email marketing, hey, here's our new sales flyer, this is on sale this month, whatever. And you're probably doing some trade shows and standing in the aisles like I used to do, right? And when you do these different things, the deliverables on all those contracts are typically one, you typically have multiple marketing contracts in place, and the deliverables on the contracts are very specific marketing tasks. So maybe you want a new brochure to hand out, and so you hire a guy to design a brochure, and the deliverable on that contract is the new brochure. Yay, I've got my new brochure. Or maybe from a traffic perspective, you hire somebody to manage 2 Google AdWords campaigns for you, and they have to increase visitors to your site by 50%. And then engagement, maybe you decide to attend a quarterly trade show and you're going to send 1 email a week. And maybe you hire somebody to do your email marketing. So now we've got 3 or 4 marketing contracts in place. Each of the contracts' deliverables are very specific marketing tasks. But what's missing from this conversation here is the business goal, how to grow your revenue 10%, right? So you have content, but we don't know if it's attracting the right guy. Your website traffic, maybe it did go up 50%. Awesome. But do you know if you have any more RFQs? Are you anywhere closer to achieving your business goal? You create new landing pages for engagement, but do you even know what's bringing them there or if they're converting any further? So from an effective content or strategic content marketing strategy, when you look at it from this content perspective, this overarching inbound marketing perspective, you're going to work from the business goal first. So the reality is to grow my revenue 10%, I need conversions to generate revenue to meet my goal, right? And so I have to look much differently at how I would buy my marketing. Now, when content is the primary driver and content is written to speak to those buyer personas that we just talked about and creates content of value to them, right? And you have to remember there's an 80-20 rule with respect to content. 80% of your content should be high-value conversation to your decision makers. 20% of your content should be about you and your services. So when we start building out this really strong content that speaks directly to our buyer personas, then we start to drive much stronger traffic because we're bringing in the right guys because they're finding the content that we're offering that speaks to them. So now they're coming to the website, and so we're building better traffic. And when we have the right guy coming to the website and traffic is up because we have the right people coming in, then engagement is going to be much stronger. And then when we have the right level of engagement, then we have conversions and RFQs. Through a strategic content marketing strategy, now you've created a measurable marketing strategy that's mapped directly to your business goals, grow revenue 10%. And you can see how an effective inbound marketing strategy managed from growth and buyer personas and talking to the people you want to talk to can have much more impact on the growth of your business than traditionally lots of linear contracts all around different marketing tasks, but nobody in conversation about the end game. So how do you get all this done? What are some of the tools that you can utilize to get done? So there's several softwares out there. It's called marketing automation software, and it's just code that you wrap around your website, and it's just a tool that helps you get this content marketing done. So some of the tools are HubSpot, Infusionsoft, Salesforce, Pardot, ExactTarget, Marketo, Oracle, and Eloqua. So the tool that we utilize when we deliver ThomasNet's results-powered marketing services to our clients is HubSpot. That's the tool that we prefer. But one thing that you have to remember about any marketing automation software is it is just a tool. And so one of the ways that we illustrate that is that really tools in and of themselves don't change a thing, right? So if you think of an incredibly powerful helicopter, right? Beautiful piece of machinery can do incredible things. But without the pilot and the ground crew or the resources needed to make that thing fly, it's just a really big pile of metal. And it in and of itself is useless. It is the pilot and the ground crew, the human resources that make that tool so effective. And that is also very true of your marketing automation software choices. So don't think you can run out today, subscribe to one of those marketing automation softwares, wrap that that software code around your website, and all of a sudden you have a content marketing strategy. It is just the tool that helps you to deliver your content strategy. All right, so let's talk about what some of the key components of an effective content marketing strategies are. Again, remembering that foundationally, your targeted personas are what drive everything that you do moving forward. So you have to clearly identify who that primary audience is, and then you can develop the right content to reach your ideal prospects with information that's valuable to them. Always remembering on the content conversation the 80-20 rule. 80% of your content should be of high value to them, their struggles, their problems, the solutions that they need, and then 20% of your content is about you, your products, your services, and your brand. So around good content that's built to speak to these targeted personas, we're talking about a responsive website design. By responsive design, we mean does that site shift and change in its viewability based on the mobile device it's on? You want to create landing page content that speaks to all your different personas and all the different markets that you're talking about. Ebooks or white papers. Again, contents of value, and I'll illustrate a few of those in a minute, that speak to issues, struggles, or problems that they might have that you are the answer to. They just don't know you're the answer to yet. Making sure that they're well designed, that you research all the different opportunities, and that blog content also supports all the information that you're creating and speaks to your specific personas. Once you've created that really good content, then it'll start to generate traffic. And there's ways that you're going to support traffic generation. So you're going to advertise on relevant industrial directories like ThomasNet.com. You're going to do search engine optimization keyword research around, again, going back to the buyer personas, all that content that you created that's of value to those personas, then foundationally those are the keywords you want to search as well. So you're going to do some research on the search engine, the SEO keywords that you want. You're going to make those adjustments to your website, and then you're going to report, take a look at how it's working and what's serving. Social media, again, is very effective in also supporting content distribution and building awareness at your targeted personas. So you want to get involved in Twitter, LinkedIn, and potentially Facebook, but community is what makes Twitter and LinkedIn so effective. So you don't just set up a Twitter campaign and just start tweeting into the wind. That's like spitting in the wind, right? It's not going to get you anywhere. So you build up a Twitter campaign, you optimize your Twitter profile page, and then you start following everybody that's relevant to your persona conversation, maybe the associations they're involved in, anybody with the titles that you're targeting, the companies that you want to work with or you're currently working with. Once you start building really strong community, then the dissemination of the content begins to have more value. And that will drive traffic as well to your website. So SEO around the content you create, as well as social media for dissemination of content, very powerful ways to drive high-quality traffic. Again, remember, everything about an inbound marketing or a content marketing strategy is all about quality, not about quantity. So calls to action. You write this great content. You start getting them all to the website. How are you engaging them? How are you moving them through the process? So making sure that you're creating really powerful call to action buttons that make sense, right? So if you post a paper about choose your proper edge design for deep drawn stampings, the next call to action might be a guide on how to better design, or I don't know, how to move them through the process. But you want to make sure that your calls to action around your content, that it's the next logical step in that buyer process, right? So we understand who we're talking to. We understand the process that they want to go through. So we need to make sure our calls to action support each next step that they're going through. You don't necessarily solve a problem early in the buyer process and then ask them if they're ready to buy. You're skipping a bunch of steps. So making sure you create really strong calls to action around all of the content you create, the ebooks, the offers, create really good smart forms. Make sure you have calls to action on your blog. Your social media icons are everywhere as well. And then convert. Moving them through this process and then converting those leads into sales through email nurturing. Hey, you downloaded this piece of content, you may now find this is of content, and staying in conversation with them as they move through that buy process. So these are the key components to a really effective content marketing strategy that you can map to your business goals of growing your revenue. Tracking is crucial, right? To do any of this, you have to tightly track it, and that is one of the strong values of those marketing automation tools, is they help you to better track all of the different tactics you employ and understanding how they come together to support your growth, your business goals. All right, so let's take a look at a case study of how exactly that this works. This is one of our ThomasNet RPAM clients. And at the beginning of our program with them, we took their email lists, right? We gathered all their emails in, we purged and cleaned that list up, loaded it into the HubSpot tool, and started an email marketing campaign as one of the initial processes that we did. On that list was a prospect that was actually pretty local to our client that they had been wanting to do business with for many years, just had not been able to break through with them. The name of the company was Archer Wire. So on January 23rd, we know that someone, we don't know who yet, from Archer Wire went to Google and actually searched for Manor Tool's competitor, Cullen Tool and Manufacturing Company, Brookfield, Illinois. Now, when you look at that search phrase, clearly this searcher from Archer Wire wanted to talk to Cullen Tool, right? That's a very specific, I need this guy's name and address. Good news for Manor Tool was Cullen has no digital presence whatsoever, so he was forced to look for an alternative service provider. Well, at the time, we also happened to be running a Google AdWords campaign for Manor Tool, and in those, the search phrases for the Google AdWords campaign were the terms manufacturer and tool. So when they searched for Cullen Tool, Manor Tool's ad was served at the top of the page. Well, through our tracking, we know that they clicked on the Google AdWord for Manor Tool, and we know that they viewed the home page, and then they did nothing further. So in the meantime, focusing on our buyer persona content, we created an ebook targeted towards the procurement professionals on how to reduce the cost of stamping services. So on February 5th, we sent out an email blast to their entire email marketing list promoting this new ebook. Now, if you remember what I talked about, this conversation about the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the content should be of value to your prospects. Only 20% is promoting you. Well, take a look at this email. This is the exact email that we sent out, right? This is a very high-value conversation to our prospect list. So here we created a list on how to reduce the cost of stamping services. It's all about, hey, this might be of value to you and helping you buy better, right? So through the HubSpot reporting, we know that Larry from Archer Wire, he received it, he opened it, and he clicked on it. We also know that he reviewed 10 pages of the MannerTool website and spent a minute and a half on the website before he left. Also, this confirmed his identity for us for future tracking, meaning it captured the IP address associated with his email, and we can now see everything that Larry does within our digital space moving forward. So our other persona, buyer persona, was design engineers. So we created another piece of content speaking to design engineers on how to choose proper edge design for deep drawn stamping. And on February 21st, we sent an email to the prospect list promoting an ebook on how to choose that proper edge design. And again, on your screen, just take a quick look at this email. We field frequent calls from customers like you who are confused about the edge type to use for their deep drawn metal stampings. How will your choice affect cost, quality, and function? This is a high value conversation. We know you have this issue. Here's some information to help you resolve this issue, right? We hope this will help you. And as always, we stand ready to serve you. Again, very high value conversation all about the prospect and very little about MannerTool. So the email blast went out. We know Larry from Archer Wire received it, opened it, but he didn't do anything else. Well, guess what? Guess who Larry is? Larry's the buyer persona, right? He's the procurement guy, not the design engineer. And this really illustrates the conversation about content of value, speaking specifically to your buyer personas. That ebook on how to reduce the cost of stamping services, Larry was all over that bad boy. Opened it, read it, went all through the website. How to choose proper edge design? He could care less. That's not his problem. That's the guy ahead of him that sends him the designs. So on April 11th, we sent an email to the entire contact list reviewing recent blog posts, awards, and videos added to the site. Hey, here's some great information that we've got all over our website. Just thought you might want to know. And we know Larry from Archer Wire received it but didn't do anything else with it. On April 25th, we know that Larry from Archer Wire went to Google and now searched for MannerTool by name. So in January, Larry searched for a competitor by name, and now 3 months of engagement and nurturing, and now Larry's looking for MannerTool by name. He searched for them by name and spent 60 seconds sitting on one page, which is typically indicative of a phone call, right? You know, if you go to the web and you're trying to find a phone number, you Google it, a page comes up, and you're on the phone sitting there. So we reached out to MannerTool and said, hey, have you heard from Archer Wire? They weren't sure, so the manager called Larry at Archer Wire, just checking in, anything we can help you with? Random that you should call? Yes, we have 3 tooling jobs averaging $40,000 each ready for you. Very powerful conversation. So let's look at this one. This is another case study that I really like, and I feel like it so perfectly illustrates that conversation we talked about, that buyer's journey or that buyer's process, right? Educate, search, evaluate, shortlist, and RFI. So we take a look at this, and on June 17th, there was a visit from Google to our client's website, metric tons to net tons, right? So this is an educate conversation, right? How to help me understand metric tons to net tons. Well, our client actually has a conversion calculator on his website. And so when he made this search, it drew it to our client's website, to that page with a conversion calculator. So on June 18th, the next day, the same user goes directly to that site, to the site again, and views one page. On July 15th, there's a visit from Google directly to our client's website again. Now on July 31st, we're still in the educate phase, right? Metric ton to net ton conversion. So a slightly different variation on the theme that he Googled in June, but again, lands at that conversion calculator on our client's website. Then on August 13th, there was a visit from Google. Again, a different, right? We're still in the educate phase. So now convert net ton to metric tons. And so, again, brings them to the conversion calculator on our client's website. Also notice the time frame here, right? We started June 17th, we're at August, and it was the same 3-month time frame that we saw with Manor Tool as well. So suddenly our search shifts, right? So we've gone through the educate phase, and now we're in the search phase. And now we know we need a V-beam profile roof sheets. And he searches that phrase, and again, it ends up back at our client's website, and he views 14 pages of the website. Now notice he's gone through the educate phase, and because of what he was looking for and the content that we created that targeted that specific question, we kept popping up as the thought leader, helping him move through that educate process. And now he's gone for the product search, and again, our client's website pops up. And so now he's gaining this authority and this confidence with this prospective buyer. On the same day, we now know that Troy Davis converts by downloading the product brochure, which is one of the calls to action on our client's website. On 9/16, so when that happens, there's an automated email that comes out of our marketing automation tool. It notifies our internet marketing strategist as well as our client. And on 9/16, we heard from the client that this is a significant sales opportunity. And this was foundationally a very important opportunity for our client and a very significant company. But you notice here how this really illustrates this educate, search, and evaluate phase and how it all happens online. If you remember, I said to you, 60% of the sales process occurs before they ever talk to you. And this clearly illustrates that that is very, very true. So why we believe RPM can be the ideal solution for you to manage this whole conversation around content marketing. So first of all, are you right for RPM? Do you wear both the sales and marketing hats and trying to get everything done? Do you have a very limited or overworked marketing department? Have you tried or considered trying some digital marketing tactics? You get it and you've dabbled in it, but you haven't really been able to run with it. Do you have specific sales and revenue goals that you're being held accountable for? And do you believe there's an opportunity that your marketing would support your sales efforts? And do you wish your marketing efforts were directly tied to your revenue goals? Can we close that loop for you? And do you wish you could be an expert in all things related to your marketing efforts? So how do you get this all done? If you remember, I showed you that helicopter, right? And I said it's just really a big piece of machinery or a pile of junk that doesn't do anything unless you've got that pilot and those resources to make that baby fly. Well, that's one of the things that's very powerful about RPM that we bring to the table is the pilot and the resources to get this all done. So your pilot for this flight will be your industrial marketing strategist. You will have one key point of contact, and that person manages a team of 12 to 15 people who are subject matter experts in every arena of digital marketing, including 3 to 5 degreed engineers on every one of our teams who are cross-trained in marketing. And the reason we have degreed engineers on these teams is in the B2B and industrial environment, your conversation, your content is very technical, and it needs to speak very specifically in a technical way to your clients and prospects. And so it's very important that we have people on the team that not only understand marketing, but understand your conversation and your clients and prospects' conversation. These are the resources to get all of that stuff done that we just talked about. We have specialists in digital media. We have specialists in social media, search engine marketing, search engine optimization, content creation. And all of these people brainstorm and roll up their sleeves and get all of this work done to help you deliver an effective content marketing strategy. And why we believe we're the right people to help you get this done? Because of the very specific arena that you play in. We've been playing here for over 110 years, serving industry through marketing. For over 18 years on the web and have participated in the creation of over 5,000 sites. We are B2B and industrial only, and as I just illustrated, we are staffed by engineers. In addition to that, we are a 110-year-old directory company who has evolved very effectively into a highly respected internet marketing firm as well. We've been written up in the Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, LinkedIn reached out to us about their company profile pages, and Rand Fishkin, an expert in search engine optimization, has mentioned ThomasNet several times in his videos on SEO. So let's review what we've kind of gone through. Content marketing maps your online strategy with your prospects' buying habits. Foundationally, you have to build everything around that buyer persona and what's of value to that person that you are targeting. When you can create that effective strategy of content that's of value to that person, tying it to an effective management automation tool, then you can create real revenue. You can really align your marketing with your business goals. It's very powerful. And ThomasNet's RPM has had a highly successful 2 years of doing this very effectively for our clients. All right, so how do you get started? First of all, you have to know where you're going to, right? What are your specific business goals? I always kind of joke around. If you think about it, when we're going on vacation, we don't say, okay, I'm going to leave Friday and I'm going to drive for 3 days, and wherever I end up is where we'll hang out on vacation for a few days. No, you decide where you're going to go, right? We're going to go to Cape Cod. We're going to go to Florida. We're going to go to Ocean City. Wherever it is, you decide where the end game is, what the end goal is, and then you create how you're going to get there, what you're going to do when you're there, and what that all looks like. So set your goals first. What are those specific goals that you're trying to achieve? And then who are you talking to? Foundationally, if you don't understand who your buyer personas are and what's of value to them, then this whole conversation on content marketing isn't going to go anywhere. Strategize what they might find interesting and useful. Well, how could you figure that out? You might talk to all of the people that quote, get the quotes and process the quotes. What are the common questions that they run into? What are the issues they're hearing from their clients? Interview some of your current clients. Talk to them about what their struggles are, what's important and of value to them. But start to gather the data. The data's there, you just need to find it. And then determine how you will create the content. So you know what's going to be of value to you. Who's going to be the people that are going to get it done? How are you going to get this content created? Who's got the time to build it out for you? And when you determine how you create it, you're going to create a schedule. Maybe you release new content weekly. Maybe you release new content monthly. But create that schedule and stick to that schedule. Really important to create a schedule that you can honor. And most importantly, track and measure your results. You release content, you do an email marketing blast, you watch the SEO. How is that impacting your goals? If it's not, then it's not the right conversation. We've got to take a hard look again at what the content we're creating and what's important to our target audience. And constantly adjust your strategy based on the results that you're measuring against your goals. You can't just set it and run it. You have to pay attention to what's working and what isn't. And that's the value and the beauty of a content marketing strategy wrapped in a really powerful tool, that you now have the ability to understand what is or isn't delivering the results against the goals that you desire. And most importantly, let us know how we can help you drive a really effective content marketing strategy. Alrighty, so we are at 10:48. Didn't do too bad. Any questions or comments today? Awesome. Okay, so our first question is about social media. Where to start and how to get it done. Okay, big question. So there's several social platforms out there. A couple key points that I would make regarding social media is, one, being social doesn't mean you do all platforms at once. So if you're not doing any social media today, I don't suggest that you run out and sign up Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest and Google Plus and get those all done. I would find the platform that you believe has the highest value for you, most likely Twitter or LinkedIn. And I would start with one platform and start doing it really, really well. And once you're comfortable with that one platform, then you might roll in another platform. Do we believe that we're going to tweet and somebody's going to buy some designed components or something? Not necessarily, no. But what we do see is a very high level of engagement with our targeted personas that we want to talk to. So remember, social is both about engagement and community as well as sharing information. And when doing social media, the 80-20 rule also applies there. 80% of your conversation on social media should be about your target audience. What's important to them should be engaging with them, asking questions, and about 20% is about who you are and what's of value. Will this presentation be available to share with my team? Yes, absolutely. We will have it recorded up on the website, and if you reach out to me, I can send you a PDF version of the presentation as well. Another question here regarding blogging. What's the right frequency with blogging? So the right frequency for blogging is the frequency that you can keep up with, okay? Quite frankly, the more frequently that you blog, the more effective the blog is, and the more traffic it will drive and the more impact it will have on you. However, don't start out daily only to peter off and die. Once you start building a following and engagement, they want to rely on the content that you're providing, and so you need to pick a schedule that you can stick to consistently. And again, remembering blogging supports your content strategy around your buyer personas. How often should you post on social media sites? Again, the same conversation as blogging. The more that you post within reason, the more effective it will be. But posting, again, you have to remember, like, for example, Twitter. If you're just constantly posting brochures, links to your website, you have to be a voice of value and remarkable. So if you want to share other people's contents, you have to share it with a comment or a conversation. Ask questions of your community. Hey, Larry, what do you think of this? And always reach out and engage and start conversations. So frequency is good, but engagement is even more important than the frequency, if that makes sense. I question the value of social media since my competitors are not using it much, which is exactly why you should be all over it. As soon as they figure that conversation out, then you're going to be in a much more competitive arena to get the attention that you need in the social arena. Social media is a very high value, and I know that the manufacturing and B2B arena, I've been playing in this field for 25 years, push back hard on the social conversation. But we see it time and time again. It has incredible impact on building brand and awareness, especially with your targeted audience. And it also has incredible impact on search engine optimization. Google does pay attention to social signals. Google looks at over 200 signals to decide where it's going to position each web page. And social signals are one of those many of those 200 signals. Of course, they don't tell us exactly what those 200 signals are, but social engagement are important pieces of the puzzle. So it also supports search engine optimization as well as really strong engagement with your community. Again, just remembering that it's all about the community that you build that makes it effective or not effective. I think that's all of our questions. Well, I appreciate everybody's time today. I hope this was of value to you. We will be hosting another webinar in about 2 to 3 weeks, and I'll get that information out to you all. Have a great day, and thank you.